Hello, welcome. Today's topic is the start of Module 3, which is political and campaign marketing. Look, everyone, we have a candidate showing themselves, presenting themselves, making themselves available, right. Look at the way he's presenting himself. Sometimes it's a bit harsh, right? He wants to show, for example, that he's competent, but he can't just directly show that he's competent, otherwise he might gain voters' dislike. Look, you know me? Do you want to know more about my proposals? Why should you vote for me? Look, the candidate has to understand the people's desires. He has to share the priorities and the issues of the neighborhoods with the voters. So look, the voter, for their part, will only have one reason to vote for this candidate, because the reason is a need that acts on each person's intellect, folks. It's a unique characteristic of each person. No one motivates anyone. Let's take a look then. The definition of marketing. We can define marketing as a set of techniques and methods that a political group has to interact with its audience and influence their preference for one candidate or another, using the least amount of resources possible. Notice the marketing. We have opposition political marketing, which is when the opposition wants to reverse a situation. This political marketing happens during a political campaign, which is the 4 years in between one election and the next. So look, reversing a situation means taking power. Those who are in the opposition often start their campaign marketing work very late. Why? Because he lost the previous election and stayed away, only showing up at the end. So that's a problem. He also has little ability to form alliances because he has little to offer. So in this case, we see that the opposition has a tough time. Why? Because the situation is already in power. And now, let's talk a little bit about government political marketing. Government political marketing will be the topic of our next class and will be presented by journalist and public management marketing specialist Ana Lucia Almeida. Electoral marketing. Electoral marketing has 6 months, which is what happens when the campaign kicks off. It's a bit more detailed marketing that the candidate does closer to the election. And we'll talk about that a little later. Let's now see what the speech is like. The candidate's speech. Many times the candidate gives passionate speeches, folks. Just take a look. With a lot of pomp. And there's some talk that if the voter pays close attention, they'll see that the words the candidate uses don't make sense or have any real meaning. For example, look, let's reclaim the lost citizenship. Let's give citizenship back to the people. But give back, folks, citizenship can't be given back. Citizenship is built, practiced. So you see, candidates also present grandiose projects and talk about them in their speeches. Projects, many of them are unconstitutional. For example, the councillor, the edil, he has the ability to manage. He takes care of the peace and well-being of the people, folks. He's not responsible for big projects. It would fall under the executive's authority. Also, many times, the candidate doesn't show up, doesn't visit the neighborhoods, and the voters' demands are left on the back burner. On the other hand, which is how it should be, the speeches should be brief, quick, and very to the point, folks. And the everyday issues take precedence over broader topics. The voter doesn't care about broader topics. They want to know about their neighborhood, their life, their community, folks, it's right where they live that they want to know about the problems happening there. So the elected official has to inform the voters about what they want to hear regarding their issues in the neighborhoods, the priorities, what's happening, and try to solve the problems that come up. And immediate solutions, huh? Don't forget. Notice, folks, that we have a process of conquest. And there are two sides to this process of conquest. One of the aspects is that in which the candidate is a last-minute candidate. He decides to run at the last minute. He has little time to campaign, you see, 3 months before the elections. So this candidate, if he doesn't have a good level of trust or popularity, he has to spend a lot of money on his electoral boutique. He has to hire marketers, advertisers, and put in a really strong effort on that side to get elected. And many times, folks, there have been cases where the votes he manages to get cost him $50 each, notice. That's a huge amount, a whole order of magnitude, right? In the case of another process of conquest, which is when the candidate works throughout the 4 years in between elections. In this case, the candidate works over that time with community leaders, local residents, and professionals. He works with the councils. He works with organized civil society. And he does some digging, folks. He gradually wins over votes little by little. And in the end, he often spent much less than the other candidate. Why? Because he acted in the right period. When an election ends, I mean for the next election, 4 years later for the same elected position. And then he spent, how to say, an order of magnitude. $100 per vote, folks, compared to $50 per vote in the end to get elected. So see, that money is important. It's important because the voter votes based on what they see, not on what they feel. And what the voter sees is in the advertising, folks. Let's move on. Electoral marketing identifies with the electoral campaign. It happens about 6 months before the elections, when the alliances and coalitions are formed. A strong point of electoral marketing is to get close to alliances and coalitions during this period. This is going to be very important, folks, because candidates confuse political marketing with electoral marketing and electoral advertising, folks. It's all very different. Look, the electoral advertising happens 15 days before the elections. That's when the TV ads and everything else happens. There are candidates who believe that their campaign will be done through electoral advertising, folks. Imagine that. We'll stop here on this topic. We saw and talked about opposition, marketing. We talked about government marketing, and now we're going to have the next topic. We talked about electoral marketing. We talked about the process of winning over the voter. And now, going to move on to the next topic, which is government marketing. I would like to thank you for your attention. And it's important, folks, that in these cases, the voter understands how a candidate should behave. See, it's a good reference for you to know if the candidate you're going to vote for will be competent to hold a public office. Thank you very much for your attention. A hug.